So he knows it in and out, despite it only being around for a couple of weeks. Giovanni, a ton of results on his side as well. An LAIC semi-finalist, as well as a regionals top 16, another Latin America top 64. So doing pretty well on the international stage, his side, as well as a Providencia regionals top 32. He's playing the Welder box variant, not playing that Victini VMAX that we saw in the previous game, leaning more into those tag team GXs.
Yeah, it is very much an old school deck against a new school deck, pre-battle styles against post-battle styles. So let's head on over to the game then and see if it is going to be the old school or the new school. And it is an interesting thing. If we think a bit about the bracket, we've noticed, and I'm sure a bunch of people watching have noticed, that Azul and Tord are actually, Tord Reklev, the probable best player in the world right now, they are on a collision course in losers semis. If they both book their top 4 spot, they will be playing in losers semis. That is a matchup that a bunch of people will have looked at the bracket and spotted like we did. But I think it's fair to say that Giovanni is here trying to play spoiler and going, you know what? I wouldn't mind playing Tord in loser semis, you know?
A Mewtwo and Mew tag team, the sort of Welder Toolbox Mewtwo build, is quite dangerous for Azul. There's going to be some interesting back and forths going on. Azul does play a Mimikyu in his deck to try and safeguard, as well as a Jirachi GX to remove that weakness for his Urshifu. So he's going to have to stay on his toes and hope that his tech cards can get him over the line here against Giovanni.
Absolutely, and I do like Giovanni's start here. Jirachi in the active is a great starter. There's a Mewtwo and Mew ready to go. Giant Half, the Cherish Ball to maybe get either Dene and start searching cards. Azul, I mean, it started with Jirachi, and on the one hand, Jirachi isn't a good starter. On the other hand, when you've got Psychic Weakness and you're playing against a deck of a really good Psychic attacker, having that Jirachi which takes away your Psychic Weakness, it's quite nice having it on the board.
Yeah, you certainly want to find that early, and he has been able to do so. Also going to kick things off with a Quick Ball. Going to throw away a Giratina. That Dimension Breach not going to be helpful here, as Giovanni is not playing the Aurora build. He's playing straight fire attackers with his Welder Mewtwo box. Azul's going to have a look through his deck, as always, but probably going to be looking to find Urshifu in these opening stages. It's always something you want to develop onto the board. If you can be threatening that G-Max Rapid Flow on turn 2, it can be extremely dangerous.
Yeah, we've seen that attack a couple of times already. It does 120 to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, active or benched. And, you know, Giovanni, like most players in a tournament, does play a copy of that Mew that protects your bench from being attacked. With the amount of Urshifu we were expecting, you had to play a Mew. But now we're in that weird situation where Giovanni might have to search it out early. And given that we've just seen the Urshifu come down with the energy, I think it might behoove him to search it out quite early.
And Azul not done yet. Still has another Quick Ball to go. Has Stellar Wish that he might want to develop into the active position here. You do want to protect that Jirachi. It could be knocked out turn 1 by the likes of a Reshiram and Charizard with the Welder plays coming in. So instead, he's going to try and safeguard that with an Air Balloon. Goes into his own Stellar Wish here to see an extra 5 cards, possibly developing a supporter for next turn if needed, or even things like Communication can be handy if he wants to try and develop a VMAX next turn.
Absolutely. That's really good, of course, because we do have a deck on Giovanni's side which is reliant on those tag team GXs, so maybe pulling them into the active and taking advantage. We don't get much gusting off item cards. It's very much the exception. We're usually using that Boss's Order supporter. Being able to have that option against a deck which is teaming with GXs is a really nice option. But we do look like we got Stellar Wish for a great cat. I think I've seen this before.
He's going to switch it out for a Quick Ball by the looks of things. Yeah. So I do like this. It's not the highest odds if you Stellar Wish before the Cherish Ball, but you're informing your decision. Because if you Stellar Wish into Welder, you go straight for the Mewtwo and then you Cherish Ball for an attacking threat, probably. But now, wow, still debating the... I have to think that the Quick Ball has to be the best choice here. So you can thin some extra Pokemon with your Dede change here to give yourself some valid attacks with the Mewtwo and Mew.
You do, but there was a big decision there, and you can see what he's thinking. Azul's got that Jirachi on his bench, is 160 HP. We all think about Dedenne as 160 HP, really weak GX, but actually Jirachi's down there with 160 as well. It's so easy to KO with so many decks, but in the end, Giovanni just realizing, you know what, that's a little bit greedy. I need to get set up. Quick Ball helps me get set up, and the thing is, that Great Catcher is still in Giovanni's deck. That Jirachi is still going to be on Azul's bench, so it's still going to be there. Of course, it's not just the early prizes. It's if Jirachi goes down, then that means that actually Mewtwo and Mew's hitting for weakness, which is also pretty big.
Yeah, and speaking of early KOs, the Heatran's getting in here for the potential to hot burn GX. Giovanni's not even going to put down his Mewtwo. He's just going to go ahead and get a fresh 3 cards here. Picks up another Jirachi, no, and does pick up that Mew, actually, which is a huge deal.
Yep.
It's going to help him out against the G-Max Rapid Flow. He can also fire off another Cherish Ball now. Can pick up that Reshiram and Charizard if he just wants to thin it with the Giant Hearth by the looks of things. Could even put it into play and go for Crobat for 3 here. Still looking for Welder outs by the looks of things.
Gets a great catcher, ironically, but not anything else. There's no way to KO that Jirachi. Has energy off of the Giant Hearth, but like you say, does not have access to that Welder, which is rather upsetting. Would actually be a tiny bit short even with a GX attack. So we might, well, it looks like we are just going to see the very rare Hot Burn GX for 50 damage.
I think it's really solid. Azul can punish this with exactly the martial arts dojo that he plays in his deck. He plays 2 copies, so you can Gale Thrust for 190 if you are able to find a basic fighting energy and that stadium. But it's high tempo from Giovanni. Azul didn't take a supporter from the Stellar Wish, which I think Giovanni's also eyeing up now, seeing, oh, he took a great catcher. That's kind of good for me. That's not a draw card. Maybe I just stick Azul here without the option to Stellar Wish, and maybe he just doesn't have much going on in his hand.
That would be big. As a 3-card combo, we need the Energy Stadium V Max in order to get the KO. 4-card hand, likely, or at least possible, no supporter. We do see the V Max coming down, though, so there is one of the free cards. We've got the Martial Arts Dojo. There's 2 of the free cards. If Marnie gets a basic energy, we are going to see that aggressive Heatran play being punished. Basic fighting, and Azul gets a 2-prize KO.
Can we get there? Azul still obviously has Crobats and Denes that he could try and go fishing for if he needs to. Also wants to possibly develop some more Urshifu V, so he needs more than just this one combo piece. He plays 5 basic fighting energies in his deck to try and capitalize with an easy response KO on the Heatran. We'll see if he can get there. As it stands, okay, there's a backup Urshifu. That's pretty solid for you. Doesn't have the basic energy, so he's going to go for the Rapid Strike energy and just going to go for the Strafe attack instead for the 30 damage. Goes back into another Jirachi now.
Not really what you wanted. Now, there is a Welder in hand for Giovanni, but the Stadium isn't out. And with the Stadium not being out, he can only actually Welder with 1 energy. There's no board space to use that Cherish Ball to grab something like a Dedenne. So there is going to be no draw. It is going to have to be a Welder to 1. So plays that Escape Rope is going to be putting Jirachi into the active and trying to get just a better option here.
Yeah, he wanted more than the 1 energy. Yeah, exactly. Welder for 1 doesn't help you too much. You could have gone for Welder 1 active and try and draw an additional energy to Steaming Stomp for the 1 prize. Instead, he's going to forego taking any target here, possibly just Weldering to the Reshiram and Charizard now for some setup plays for next turn, but he's been left with nothing here.
This is not good. Replacing that Stadium actually was huge. Azul didn't get the extra damage because there was no basic fighting, but had we seen a Giant Hearth stay in play, Giovanni would have got a full Welder last turn and would have a full Welder ready this turn. As it stands at the moment, we see Boss's Orders bringing up the Mew, and we see a Gale Thrust hitting for 150 damage, taking out the Mew, and now, of course, Giovanni's bench is open, and this is not ideal.
Let's see the Stellar Wish. Are we going to see no Giant Hearth once again? He does have the option to Great Catcher if he wants to. He will be Weldering probably to the Reshizard. Not enough energies, though, to really make it count, unless you want to go... Well, you can't even Double Blaze. You've already used your GX. You maybe have to just Dede change his entire hand away and look for another Welder plus the Hearth or the... Yeah, just not enough outs for him. The Fire Crystal, potentially. Looking to Great Catcher the Jirachi GX. It's going to Cherish Ball first. Can thin some additional Pokemon out of his deck now.
Absolutely. It's not looking great, though. I mean, Azul has had a really good start to this game. The Mew is off the board. He's up by 1 prize, but that doesn't... Well, sorry, he's taken 1 prize. They're 1 prize each. But that doesn't really tell the story. Azul's setup is looking very, very tidy and is in that situation where he can actually use the bigger attack on Urshifu 2 turns in a row, which will end the game. He can take 5 Oh, no, not quite. He can take 4 prizes in 2 turns, not 5.
He can take 5 in 2 turns. If he goes Reshiram and Charizard with a Gale Thrust, and then you gust up to Dene, and then you double Rapid Flow.
Of course. Absolutely,
He has got 2-turn wins set up.
That is
Giovanni
possible.
has been able to Crobat nicely here. Gets himself the Reshiram and Charizard going. Also got the Scoop Up Net, so the ideal Crobat plus Welder combo here. So he can take a 2-prize KO. It's ended up being a nice turn for him. Azul taking out that Mew so that he sets up 2-turn win has actually helped out Giovanni quite substantially here. He needed the help of the extra Stellar Wish and the board space, as you mentioned. Mewtwo probably going to put a Welder back on top by the looks of things.
You would imagine at this stage, yeah. This is looking really, really strong. So, I mean, this is how fast these games can swing, right? 2 minutes ago, I'm sitting there going, oh, don't let Giovanni set up. Azul has really got this on lockdown. And now I'm turning around and going, well, you know what? Actually, Giovanni turned that around pretty quickly. Azul can still win in 2 turns, let's be clear. But actually, Giovanni has got himself in a very nice position indeed. So, presumably here, we're probably just going to see a Gale Thrust into the Reshiram and Charizard. And then next turn, we would see that G-Max Rapid Flow?
Yep.
There we go. And paired with a boss's orders. And that is the one thing, we said it before, those 270 tag teams, they are actually in perfect range for the 150 and then the 120. So you can gust up someone like a Crobat, KO it, while finishing off Reshiram and Charizard. And this is one of the things that's so good about Rapid Strike Urshifu. It actually hits the numbers beautifully on a lot of Pokemon.
Azul is going to forego the Stellar Wish once again. No targets that he's willing to take, but is fairly happy just going for the switch into his Urshifu. Does actually have to research away a boss's orders. He can't sit on that hand because he didn't have the energy to follow it up. So he's going to get a fresh hand, try and develop another VMAX now as well. And yeah, look to see if he can, especially the best turn could be if he attaches to the benched Urshifu as well. Then he would only need boss's orders to close the game next turn.
Yeah, I like this a lot. If you can just get a VMAX on the bench with all 3 energy rolling, like you say, then it's just 1 card that is actually needed. It makes it so much easier. We do see Giant Half throwing away that Marnie. I don't think Azul's going to get any fire energy here.
No.
But it's a nice, it's a nice little trick, though, we see from players. Just, I am allowed to do this, so I'll discard a card from my hand. I'll search my deck. Oh, no, there's no fire energy. But it means you get to have a really good look at exactly where your deck is. Sure, you can remember your prizes, look at your hand, look at your discard, and try and figure it out. But it's quite a lot easier to just look through your deck. And of course, you get rid of a Marnie, which you don't really want to be drawing into. So now if you get Marnied or reset stamped, you've actually got a lower hand or a lower deck size. So you're just marginally more likely to draw what you need.
And this is really nice for Azul. As you can see, he's setting himself up 1 card away from game. Good old boss's orders. Giovanni is holding on to reset stamp, but you'd actually be giving Azul additional cards. And you can only draw 3 from the Welder here. You have to move your Reshiram and Charizard out of the line of fire, I think, here as well. Maybe just Steaming Stomp with Heatran. Possibly you could just Outrage here. You can give up the 3 relatively comfortably. It's not... Azul needs the boss's orders anyways.
Yeah, I'm cool with attacking with Reshiram and Charizard here. I don't think it's really a huge problem because, like you said, without a boss's orders, Azul isn't winning the game next turn. It doesn't really matter what's in the active unless, for some reason, Giovanni puts a Crobat or Dedenne in the active. That would be terrible, but somewhat unlikely. So we are seeing a scoop up net here, grabbing the Mewtwo. It allows Giovanni to put any supporter from his discard pile back on top of his deck, really guaranteeing the right supporter next turn, which is you imagine is going to be boss's orders?
I would say, yeah, boss has to be the win condition here. You just say, Azul, don't have it this turn, I'll get you next turn, is basically the plan. But instead going for Welder, that's a huge surprise to me. It's because he can only outrage for 180 and that the Steaming Stomp wouldn't close the game. I guess that's why you don't have the numbers on your side for this sort of approach to boss next turn. So you have to Weld instead.
Oh, now we see it. Azul does use boss's orders, grabs up the Dedenne, and now we see G-Max Rapid Flow, KOs the Dedenne in the active, finishes off the Reshiram and Charizard, takes 5 prizes in a single attack, and finishes off the game.
Yeah, that's one of the things about the Mew. It's a really nice tech card, but it also helps the prize map quite considerably. It's the one and then the perfect tag team plus the Dene or Crobat combination. So even though it is a tech card, it forces extra boss's orders, but then it makes such an easy race for the Urshifu player. It's not the be-all and end-all tech card to end all techs, you know? And Giovanni, it's one of those matchups where, because Azul is playing that Mimikyu, you can't see Giovanni go aggressive with his Mewtwo and Mew. He was kind of saving it just in case there was ever a chance for him to bench Welder, attach and get a big burst of damage. But because he used the Hot Burn early in that game one, the Mewtwo's basically always off the table, because otherwise Azul can just sort of tag it with any early attack or tag it with Zigzagoon Ping plus the Mimikyu combo. So Azul's tech card's really coming in clutch in that game one, because it makes Giovanni play the whole matchup very, very differently.
Yeah, that Mimikyu turns off abilities of GXs of any damage on, so you're right, between the Jirachi, which is getting rid of weakness, and the Mimikyu, which is getting rid of Mewtwo and Mew's ability, which really is the entire card. With no Psychic Energy, you can't even use that singular GX attack, and it really does give, you know, we've seen these Urshifu decks, and a lot of the games we see are very methodical. It's, here's my one prize Pokemon, here's my hit of 150 onto a tag team. Right, now I'll gust up at a Dene or Crobat, there's 5 prizes, I win. It takes Reset Stamp out of the game, it takes Marnie pretty much out of the game. Those hand disruption cards just do not have the same impact when you've got 5 prizes remaining. It really does help you so much. And as soon as you've got a couple energy on the board, you're kind of on a 2-turn clock to hit boss's orders, and that really is the game. So let's head on over into game 2 then and see if Urshifu can continue this methodical march through the loser's bracket, or whether Giovanni's fire deck has got something to say about it.
Yeah, we'll see if he wants to kick off. Sometimes when you are playing Reshiram and Charizard, you can still go first, knowing that Azul's really only attack coming into you would be a strafe for about 30 damage. So you may still choose to go first here as the Welder deck. It feels unconventional, but if you can get an energy drop onto a Reshiram and Charizard, it can be beneficial for you.
Absolutely. Energy turn 1 means potential turn 2, 230 without using your GX attack. And we saw that the early GX attack from Giovanni in the last game did get that KO on Jirachi, and that was lovely. But actually, there were opportunities later in the game where I think having a GX attack on board could have been quite important.
Yeah, I think he may want to save it this game, not only because there's the dojo that Azul can sort of punish, there's also the fact that you want to have Mewtwo bursting onto the scene almost, where it just comes in, does 400 damage into an Urshifu by copying a Reshiram and Charizard, and then sort of just saying, I've done my work, peace out kind of thing. Even if it does get hit with Mimikyu, it's done its job, yeah.
Yeah, cheers guys, I'm out now, I've done my job. Azul has started with the Mew here, and Azul has to play Mew like most people do, Urshifu and things of that nature. I mean, Giovanni's deck really is not forcing the Mew like so many other decks, so it's not a great starter for Azul, and really it's just kind of taking up a bench space.
Yeah, the good news is he's playing the Scoop Up Net build, so it can easily be pivoted next turn if he wants to just leave it out there. It's less vulnerable than a Jirachi as well to an early aggressive Hot Burn play, so it's kind of fine to sit there for now. It may get air ballooned, it may get Scoop Up Netted next turn, as Azul has been able to find an Urshifu for turn 1. He's actually going to proactive stamp 6 for 6. It's not a hard read, it's just that he's trying to Crobat for an extra card.
There's a Crobat coming.
Oh, the Dene.
Oh, there isn't a Crobat coming.
Interesting. So it's kind of it's one of those things where you think mathematically it doesn't change anything. And Giovanni, when he starts with a good Pokemon, that's a bigger indicator that it's a good hand, if that makes sense. If Giovanni started with some sort of goofy GX Pokemon, or even just like a Reshiram and Charizard, you may be disincentivized to stamp 6 to 6 because they're more likely to have an awkward hand, if that makes sense. So the fact that Giovanni had the good Jirachi made us all go 6 to 6 is worth it pre-Dedenne.
And this Stellar Wish is absolutely huge. Oh, we get the ball search. Because there is nothing going on in Giovanni's hand right now. There absolutely no draw, no viable attackers, nothing. So the good news is that Jirachi, I mean, it is getting something. Is he getting the Welder?
Yeah, he's trying to eye up Heatran plays again by the looks of things. Or he could go Zigzagoon, Scoop Up Net Jirachi, and then Scoop Up Net Zigzagoon, or Rope back into the Jirachi. He's trying to double dip this Wish by the looks of things, with the backup of Heatran being an option by the looks of things.
I think that's got to be the play, because you don't want to welder onto a Jirachi generally. It's not going to go terribly well, but certainly weldering onto a Jirachi, knowing that you can get the energy off with Heatran in the future, that does help quite nicely. Of course, with a Mimikyu on the board, that's got to be all in one, because if you bench the Heatran and it gets pinged with a Zigzagoon, then that energy is staying on Jirachi, and that's a bad thing.
I'm really surprised Giovanni didn't go for the double dip on the Wish. He could have gone for the scoop up, well, bench Zigzagoon, scoop up net Jirachi, then either rope or scoop up net the Zigzagoon, go back into your Jirachi and have a better potential target for the welder. As it stands, you've got this Jirachi that's got a couple energies. You know, your only hope really is this Jirachi sticking on board. You can switch into Zigzagoon potentially. You may also need to put down the Mew this turn as well, because there is one energy on Azul's Urshifu, so you don't want to allow an early G-Max Rapid Flow onto your Jirachi equally. So yeah, Giovanni hasn't been helped out by his welder at all.
No, and this is a position you don't really want to be in, because if you're facing against these Urshifu decks, you don't want to have multiple Pokemon with 120 HP or less in play, because they can be, you know, you can give up 2 prizes in one go. So you've got to bench the Mew here to prevent that from happening. And essentially here, this is big. I mean, if Azul could get a boss's orders onto that Jirachi, I mean, we saw that the supporter was just a welder. We saw that the welder came down onto Jirachi. Azul knows, or at least must suspect, that Giovanni's hand is not great. A boss's orders onto that Jirachi for the KO would put Giovanni into proper job top deck mode here.
And Azul's random stamp 6/6 is working wonders right now. Azul is forced to scoop up net proactively, which might mean he has communication in hand. So he may promote the Dedenne that then could get air ballooned, or he's just going to pay retreat by the looks of things. Guarantee an easy way to attack here. The Zigzagoon, I believe, is weak to grass instead of fighting. It's one of the sort of new age dark Pokemon. So he can't get an easy KO just with a Strafe plus Zigzagoon ping. He's going to have to find the VMAX if he wants to take a KO here.
He is, but oh, there's the Karate Belt, and there is the VMAX, and there is Professor's research. Good news, there is going to be a KO. The board already says so. Bad news, it is not going to be on the Jirachi. It is going to be on the Zigzagoon. Still taking a prize, still nice, but not perfect. And we do see the Jirachi coming down here as Urshifu takes a KO. Pretty much just trying to make sure there is no Mewtwo burst play, like we've said a couple of times. It's not what you're looking for.
Okay, Giovanni picks up that welder thanks to his Mind Report Mewtwo. Can he wish towards a stadium? No, he can't, but does find ball search outs, so can just get rid of everything with a Dedenne here. He does have the option to go Heatran if he really wants to. The dojo isn't live right now. It would only be doing a +10, so you can go for a Steaming Stomp play if you want to continue to remain aggressive. Or you could just Dedenne change it all.
You could. So you could reset the Jirachi, but to do so would be to lose those 2 energies. So you can't really do that either. So looks like it's going to be a Crobat coming down here, just drawing a few extra cards, switching into the Mew, knowing that you can scoop up net it in a moment if you need to get it out the active. So Crobat draws 4 cards, and it's not great.
Yeah, that's not where you want to be. You don't want to be getting rid of your stamp. That's an extra welder that might have to go to the bin now as well. You can quick ball out that Heatran still, and you can scoop up net into Heatran to still get the attack off this turn. But then you're Dedenne changing a couple welders away. It's still not ideal for him.
No, that's 3 welders gone, and all you've got is 2 energy onto a Jirachi. That's not what welder's supposed to do.
Here we go then. Giovanni is going to be picking up his Mew. Then there's going to be Heatran coming into the active, yoinking all the energies that has gone on to some unfortunate choices right now. It's going to make sense now that the Heatran's in the active, stealing them for himself. The Mew has to get re-established here. We're also going to see Giovanni -1 Azul pre-Dedenne GX. You have to think the Mew comes down. Maybe for the prize race, you're not even worried about G-Max Rapid Flow, but yeah, surely the Mew comes down. He's already played a lot of scoop-up nets, though, so he's not got many other spaces for attacking Pokemon.
I mean, the problem becomes if you don't bench the Mew, then there could be a potential kind of easy it's just kind of like you take out the Crobat and the Jirachi, and then you KO Heatran, and actually that's 5 prizes, that's the game. So I think Mew did have to come back down, but we actually see Giovanni there choosing not to play the Dedenne because it takes up your last bench space, it gets rid of a third welder. Giovanni is not in a great position this game either. Azul really does seem to be taking the initiative. The only good news for Giovanni is that Heatran is actually awkward to KO numbers-wise.
Yeah, it's a really awkward, if Azul has to 2-hit KO through it, that's really awkward, especially if you're not getting the rapid flow value in between thanks to the Mew on the bench. So Azul's probably going to have to find another VMAX here. He could take another turn just using Strafe even with the regular V, just to do a little bit of a prod here, because you can do the 30 into 160 if the Dojo sticks next turn. And we are going to see the research getting rid of a Rapid Strike energy by the looks of things. And we are indeed just going to see that strafe attack. 30, as long as the Dojo sticks, he's set up a 2-hit KO here, and he's keeping his VMAX nice and safe from a hot burn play next turn.
Absolutely. And we could see a KO with just an energy here, but the problem with that is you're using your GX attack early, you're getting rid of a support Pokemon, but giving up an attacker. And that's something you always need to think about. Like, generally speaking, you need to rush to 6 prizes, but it's always better to take out your opponent's attackers to stop them, getting their tempo going. If you're taking out support Pokemon but giving up attackers, that is not really where you want to be. Now, the good news is we do have 2 Boss's Orders. Yeah. And kind of interesting that Giovanni is playing Boss's Orders Lysander and bringing up that VMAX.
Yeah, he's going to hot burn GX, take 3 prizes, and try and keep up in this race. It's kind of what he needed. There's not much else going for him in the hand right now. This Heatran is almost always getting knocked out in response here, but it's what you're doing to keep up in the race right now. The first 3 prizes for him. Picks up a Mewtwo as well, which could be handy for, again, that sort of burst damage needed. There is the Jirachi GX currently in play, though, so that's not really an avenue for him just yet.
No, not quite. And we see the early GX, and I don't mind this. I mean, I like what Giovanni's doing in terms of taking prizes. I love that he got rid of the VMAX. I love that he's up by 2 prizes. But we've seen this a few times by players on stream today, and sometimes your hand and the game forces you into it. But the bench there is 5 support Pokemon. There's no other attackers rolling. So if this Heatran goes down, and the Heatran is definitely going to go... Oh, not yes, it is definitely going to go down, because that 150 will turn into 160. Yeah. But now what does Giovanni do? Like, he needs to get an attacker and the energy on that attacker all in one go to try and get a response. So even though we're at 3 prizes each, Azul has got to be feeling better about his board position right now. Oh, especially after that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really big KO. Half and Quick Ball aren't ideal. You can't really put any more support Pokemon into play because then your entire board is support Pokemon.
You've got to attack with something.
Eyeing up how many Scoop Up Nets he has remaining. So tempo-wise, you kind of do need to put down a Dedenne here and then just hope that you can find your remaining Scoop Up Nets in addition to welding plays. Yeah, Giovanni just doesn't have the board state right now that he needs.
No, this is... Oh, and
you have to do it.
Yeah, no, you've got to. You're absolutely right. You do not have a hand to attack with anything. So you play your 6th support Pokemon. You really hope you see Scoop Up there.
Oh, no.
Doesn't see it.
That is so rough for Giovanni. 2 remaining in there. Not the highest odds, I'll admit, but you had to go to this play. He can Cherish Ball out a Pokemon that he can copy with Mewtwo and Mew. And, or he could even just be discarding the Mewtwo Mew itself here. Okay, interestingly, still values the Mewtwo Mew over the actual Reshizard, because there's a Mimikyu and there's a Jirachi GX. I kind of value the Reshizard higher here. He may be needing to, just pass into the active. That's very bad for him. Prize race-wise now, Azul can just take an easy 1, and then once again, he's in Boss's Orders range next turn for win. So it's an easy path for Azul now with a large hand size to boot.
Yeah, I mean, all you really need here is a VMAX and a new Urshifu getting ready. And, Azul's got that bench space ready to go. So, the Jirachi is already in KO range. Nothing needs to be done to KO the Jirachi. So, all you really need to do is get an Urshifu down, ready to VMAX next turn. And it's just Boss's Orders, VMAX for the win. It's pretty straightforward for Azul at this stage. Now, if Azul doesn't get another Urshifu, and just takes a KO on the Jirachi, then maybe Giovanni can get that burst with Mewtwo, swing the game right back over. Or if we see a VMAX, that could be very interesting. But having said that, Giovanni's used his GX attack this game, and that's what you'd really be wanting to look for.
Looks like Azul is still missing a couple of pieces. Hasn't found that VMAX just yet. Even if he does... I mean, even the regular V may be out of range of any burst damage that Giovanni can come out with now. I think he's just safe, just 100 Furious Blows again here for the single prize and just looking for boss next turn.
Yeah,
opening up the board space isn't that scary because you're even dealing with a Stellar Wish. So again, Giovanni's working on a low hand size, and we can see that it's pretty poor.
It's not good. I mean, it's more support Pokemon. It's not what you're looking for here. So we do get that backup Urshifu. I love this. It means if the active does go down, you are just not worried. 100 Furious Blows comes in, takes out the Jirachi. That's lovely. But the bad news, well, I'm sorry, the bad news for Giovanni is that it's just boss's orders and now game. Azul, well, I say does need a VMAX if the active goes down, but I just don't see how that active is going down at this stage.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's happening. Giovanni looks like he's just conceding. I don't think there's an out there.
No, unfortunately, it's just not working at this stage. Did everything he could, but Azul just had his number. It was a different kind of game from Rapid Strike Urshifu. We didn't see those big double knockouts for 5 prizes in one go. We saw the V take multiple prizes, which is not something we're used to seeing. But Azul is a really good player, plays the board as it comes, and a really nice series there from Azul.
Yeah, Giovanni, it just didn't get enough pieces going for him. He tried a really awkward Heatran line. I feel like that opening few turns, he could have gone...